frankly. We all get worried about it, and we all get concerned when we hear about anything being out of our control, right? Like when I'm going about my everyday business and then something goes the way I don't like, nobody's happy about that, right? Or when you're at the gas station and gas is too expensive, now that's sort of out of your control because now you're spending more money than you had to before. People don't like it when things are out of their control. And that's sort of what's happening here with the United Nations and the internet, because now the internet's not in control of the United States. This needs some explanation because it's a little bit complicated. So what happens here is there's a entity called ICANN. That's the International Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN. Now, ICANN is in charge of handing out the IP addresses for you, your website, your personal computer, anything that's connected to the internet. ICANN handles that. But also it handles DNS. And DNS is domain name service. Basically what it means is when you connect to www.google.com, you are connecting to google.com, but your computer is seeing that, and google.com redirects you to an IP address, believe it or not. There's a whole series of different IP addresses that could correspond to google.com. And ICANN is in charge of making sure those all stay in line. It's making sure that I can't accidentally or intentionally take over google.com because of some misalignment that happens somewhere down the line. That's what ICANN does. That's its job. And it does it pretty dang well because I've never seen any sort of crossed lines or wires or anything happening with ICANN or with the internet. It doesn't happen. I've never seen it, which is good. But now ICANN is being crossed over to the hands of the United Nations. Now, ICANN is also kind of in charge of what websites you can register to some degree. So let's say that I want to register a domain name of, let's be super problematic here, NazisAreGreat.com. Now, the U.S. has freedom of speech. You can say Nazis are great all day. The United Nations, on the other hand, probably doesn't recognize the First Amendment because that's an American thing. So the United Nations has no obligation whatsoever to make sure you can register NazisAreGreat.com. Now, that's not to say that NazisAreGreat.com is something that anyone should register, but that's not really my decision. That's not really anyone's business who has the right to do this or that. It's not your business if they should do it. Your business is that they can, right? They can register NazisAreGreat.com, and it's none of your business if they do. That's kind of the First Amendment. Now, if it treads on you, right, in any way, if it affects you in any way, that's a little bit different. But it doesn't. NazisAreGreat.com is not knocking at your door trying to hand you pamphlets. It doesn't happen. So you can register that, or could anyway. But now that it's in the hands of the United Nations, maybe not. Things are changing here with the internet. There are a lot of things that are changing, actually, with the age of the internet, the new age of the internet, because it seems like we're phasing into, and I could be wrong about this, but it seems like we're phasing into Internet 3.0 kind of in a way. Not necessarily with how the internet functions, but more with how we think of it. Because Web 1.0, if you remember back in the days of AOL, we call it Web 1.0. It was very archaic compared to what we have today. Web 1.0 was fun, but it wasn't what we have today. It wasn't multimedia. You had images, yeah, you had JPEGs, but it wasn't multimedia in the same sense that we like things to be multimedia today, with videos and with flash animations and with 3D models floating around on the screen to take up all of your RAM and processing power. That didn't happen back in the Web 1.0 days, up until the mid-2000s. And then everything kind of changed. Around 2005, you had YouTube. MySpace was starting to go the way of the dinosaur, and you had Facebook. And then in 2007, consolidation happened, where it went from all the different sites that people used got sort of merged into just a few. Back before 2007, before consolidation happened, there was a plethora of websites that people would browse, and internet traffic was pretty evenly distributed among a bunch of different websites. Now, there's been something called consolidation, where now almost all of the internet traffic is directed towards 3 or 4 main websites. Facebook, YouTube, Google, of course, which owns YouTube, Google properties, and believe it or not, Yahoo properties as well. Surprised me too. Condé Nast comes in, I think, pretty close as well. Condé Nast is a magazine publishing company that owns a bunch of different news websites, including Ars Technica, which is a pretty good website for what it is. But it's interesting how these things are laying out, how these things are playing out. But this is troublesome for a lot of reasons. The main one is because this changes how you and I use the internet. Because this is not just, well, we go online to do our taxes and we go online to upload images of cats and things online. It's become so much more than that. Now the internet is everything. You can't do anything anymore without being online. Now, for me, for a tech-connected kind of guy, that's fine. Being online is great, and I love it. But being online for other people, not so much. This is kind of like the innovation of the horseless carriage, right? Back in the turn of the century when everyone was riding horses, and then suddenly by the 30s and 40s, everyone was driving a car. My dad was telling me, he's born in the 60s. My dad was telling me down in rural Louisiana where he grew up, he still saw a few people riding horses. It still happened back then, but they were very rare. And you really, really needed a car to get anywhere. I think about where you live right now. You probably need a car to get just about anywhere. You can't walk to the store, most likely. You can't, at least comfortably. You can't, ride a horse to work. You have to drive a car. The car has now made efficient and easy travel something that is just an everyday occurrence. It's something that's accepted as part of everyday life. Now think about the internet. The internet and the car, I think, are very, very much relatable. You can easily relate them to each other, is what I mean. The internet and the car are both very similar in terms of the effect they've had on humanity. Think about this for a second. The internet now is affecting us to the point where you can't do anything socially or business-wise online. You have to do everything online, is what I'm trying to say. You have to do everything on the internet. And that's a good thing because now it's so much easier. Everything can be done so much quicker, so much more efficiently. The average person, I was reading a study about this the other day, the average person is like 3,000 times more efficient, not actually 3,000, but is multiple times more efficient in the 21st century than he was in the 20th century, or she was in the 20th century. Think about a secretary, right? A secretary in the 20th century did a lot, but a secretary in the 21st century can do even more because now she can manage, or he can manage emails. He or she can manage all sorts of different things, the emails, sending out affidavits to different people, notarizing. There's all sorts of different things that can be done now by an individual, just one person. That had to be done by a team of people just a few years ago. Video editing is a good example. Video editing was something that was a dream to people in the 80s. You couldn't edit your own videos unless you dubbed it to tape and did all this stuff, and it was a pain in the neck, and it was more trouble than it was worth. Nowadays, editing a video is you can do it in your sleep. It's so easy. So the internet is changing everything about how we behave. It's changing how we perceive reality. It's changing how we behave towards other people. And that being threatened by the UN, it's massive. That way of life now, because this is our livelihood. It's not just how we use business tools and we make things more efficient for look at the stock percentages that we can look at and all sorts of different silly things that the average person doesn't care about. But this affects our livelihood because now we could be talking about the United Nations telling Facebook what to do. And that's not the American way. That's not the American way at all. Governments telling businesses what to do has never been a staple of Americana. But nowadays it is. Things have changed drastically since just the last few years. Things have changed immensely. The solution is actually pretty simple. It's a lot easier than you might think. It's just have governments sort of get their noses out of where they don't belong. The whole concept that came around the 1700s when liberalism was starting to spread towards the Americas from Britain, of course, the UK basically invented, along with France, basically invented modern liberalism. I would argue that a lot of modern that's hard to say, isn't it? Liberalism. A lot of modern liberalism comes out of both the French Revolution, but also British high culture, unfortunately. And this culture has spread to the Americas, unfortunately, but that culture was something we were trying to break away from in the 1700s during the Revolution, right? And it was people from all walks of life who were against this intervention by government, intervention with businesses, intervention with taxes and how we operate. That's why there was the Boston Tea Party, the tax protest. People were upset about having to pay taxes without representation. But now we do it without blinking an eye because we have a social security number. So why not? Because we send our kids to school, so we now have to pay our fair share, right? or because, well, if I don't pay my fair share, then that gives an excuse for other people to not pay their fair share. And what about the people on welfare? And what about the people who are less fortunate than me? Because charities obviously don't exist. And if we get rid of government assistance, then obviously no charities will ever step up to fill that hole in the market. It's ridiculous, the way of thinking. It really is. Because it reinforces dependency. That's all that liberalism ends up doing, is it reinforces dependency. You need us for this. You need us for that. You need us to tell you what to do. That's the thought that people have now, is we need someone to tell us what to do. And frankly, there's only one entity that can tell you what to do, that has the authority to ultimately tell you how to operate. Of course, that's God. God is the only entity that has the ultimate authority to tell you what to do. Now, other entities, other people are given limited authority by God. Say your parents, right? Honor your father and your mother. That's pretty clear. Your church. Okay, Paul talks about that a lot. But governments are very limited, especially even in biblical times. Governments were not all inclusive and all intrusive like they are today, because that's what it ends up being. Now, the internet being passed over to the hands of the architects of the modern liberal world doesn't seem like the best idea to me, because that's what's going to happen now, is it's going to keep on going the way it's been going. And the argument is, of course, that the internet is an international entity and one country has no business owning it. And, you know, you can understand the logic in that, where you think, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense, because people in the UK have just as much right to have a website as people in the United States, and that is true. But we kind of invented the internet. By we, I mean the United States. The United States government, funnily enough, along with a bunch of different corporations, basically made, and universities, basically made the internet what it is today. They invented the whole concept of an IP address. They invented the whole concept of a website. They invented the whole concept of all these things. Of course, there's the British guy, Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the World Wide Web, the first website when he was working for CERN, so in Switzerland. So there is some credence to be given to the international aspect of the internet. The internet is somewhat nationless, but should it be governed by the United Nations? It seems kind of like a bad idea. Look at what the United Nations has done. What has the United Nations actually accomplished in the last, how long has it been around? 60, 50 years? About 65 years now? How much has the UN accomplished in that amount of time? Well, peace missions, right? Oh, great. Peace missions that actually ended up doing next to nothing. What about in Haiti, where they messed everything up? Everyone's upset about the UN for how they've treated people in Haiti. There have been reports of rapes happening in Haiti. Terrible things at the hands of the United Nations. I can't think of anything positive except for maybe possibly keeping war at bay. I can't think of anything that the United Nations has done that makes it worthy of existing. Because we don't consent to it. I never consented to being part of the United Nations. I never consented to that. Where does that authority come from? There's no answer for that. Where's that authority come from? Well, we signed a bunch of treaties that makes it so that this entity has authority over you. Well, thanks. But where do I play into this? You know, when did I consent to that? Never. I never did. I never consented to even being born here. Man, I mean, come on. I never even said, yeah, I want to be born in Erlanger Hospital here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I want to be governed by Governor Nathan Deal in Georgia. I never consented to that. You know, think about it. And that's bad enough. But what about when you take it to an international level, or at least with nation states and states in general, you can understand sort of the mentality of the sovereignty that exists there. But what about the United Nations? Where does that come from? We signed a bunch of treaties with Soviet Russia and China and the UK. And there's a bunch of different founding countries after World War II. And they're going to make decisions about how you live your life. That doesn't seem very constitutional. And it definitely doesn't seem very... it doesn't seem very cohesive to a liberalized society. By liberalized, I mean full of liberty, right? There's not a whole lot of liberty going on when there's 18 different communes and 18 different, what's the word I'm looking for? Soviet, 18 different councils, there we go, not communes, councils, telling me how I should live my life. That doesn't seem exactly a very, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness if you just fill out these forms. Yeah, you have a life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. You just need a social security number. Fill out these forms, and we'll get it back to you in the next, say, month or so. But we'll probably lose it in the mail. That doesn't sound very much to me like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The internet should be the pinnacle of that. The internet should be the pinnacle of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You can do anything you want online. So why should we allow it to be governed by people who are inherently globalists, who are inherently internationally minded, like the UN? Why? Why should we hand that over? And understand, I get completely that the United States is not exactly the most moral entity on the planet, but the UN doesn't seem to be much better. This is one of those rare occasions where I don't like choosing the lesser of two evils because my option is usually neither. But because in this instance, the gun is being pointed at your head and you have to absolutely pick one, I would pick the United States over the United Nations any day. If there was ever the choice, you can either be governed by the United Nations or you can be governed by the United States. Which do you pick? I would choose the United States any day over the United Nations, and I'm sure you would too. So why should we hand over the internet? And why is this not something that we have a say in? I never said hand over the internet. I never said hand over ICANN to the UN. I never said that. I don't know of anyone who did. So why is this being a thing? Why is this happening if we didn't consent to it? If there was a democratic vote, think about this. If there's a democratic vote held in the United States where every U.S. citizen gets to vote on whether or not ICANN should be handed over to the United Nations, I guarantee you it wouldn't happen. These things only happen when you have people who have too much power, who hand over things that they don't actually own. Who owns the internet anyway? Who owns ICANN? It's the International Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Who owns that? It's all legal fiction. It's all made up nonsense, but it does somewhat have some meaning because this actually makes a difference for how I go about my everyday life. Because this now could potentially make a difference because my website could be censored. I could start up a blog and have the content censored by an international review committee because it has banned words in it. That could really happen. That's a real possibility now, thanks to the handing over of the internet to ICANN. That is the future that we potentially face here. And unfortunately, no one seems to be very interested in making a change. No one seems to be very interested in making a change in how we operate with the internet and how we use the internet and how we govern the internet. There should be no governance of the internet. That's the thing. The internet is ultimate anarchy, and it works very well. There are inherent rules with the internet where you can't break IP addresses or anything like that. There are inherent rules with the internet. You have to follow protocol. So there are inherent rules. But other than that, it's complete and total anarchy in what you can do on there, what you can post on there, what you can say on there, what kind of content you can put up on there. As long as it's not illegal, it's almost complete anarchy online. Why would you take that away when it's been working so well for so long? So many companies making so much money. What would the iPhone be worth without the internet? Nothing. It's worthless without apps, without the internet. Any phone ever, any smartphone is worth nothing without apps, without the internet. Tablets, laptops are worth nothing without the internet. So why take a risk and hand it over? Doesn't seem to make any sense, especially to the UN. Who in the world trusts the UN? Honestly. Who trusts a committee of a bunch of different people to make the right decision? I don't. I certainly don't trust anyone to make the right decision for me. I trusted my parents when I was a kid, but now I'm an adult. I don't trust anyone to make decisions for me except for myself. I accept counsel. I accept advice, right? But I don't accept anyone to govern my life in this earthly plane except for myself and the Bible, God. I don't accept anyone that's telling me how to live my life except for myself and the Bible. And no one else should either, frankly. No one else should. Why? Why do you care what Mayor Andy Burke says? What difference does it make what he says to you? He doesn't have any power over you anyway. He can't tell you what to do. He can't. If the mayor walks in and says, Russell, I want you to do this and that. No disrespect to Mayor Burke, but no. No. Just by the mere fact that he's telling me to do something, I'm now going to defy him and say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll get you water if you want water, but I'm not going to bow and lick your feet or anything like that. I'll help you out, man, but I'm not going to be your servant. More people need to think this way. More people need to understand that you are your own person in a lot more ways than you might think. And I don't mean that in terms of, look at free will and we can do all these things. No, I mean in terms of what you can do business-wise and what you can do to fix things around yourself. There's a lot that can be done. And we talk about the hustle, right? We talk about making money. The internet has opened that up to basically anyone. You can make any amount of money you want as long as you have the right innovation and the right product and the right marketing prowess, all of these things can be had through the internet. It's amazing. I know people who make a lot of money reselling Chinese crap on eBay. Seriously, they make tons of money doing that. And it costs them next to nothing to do because they just make that little bit of profit the first time, make the next little bit of profit, and it keeps accumulating until suddenly they have a ton of money. It's crazy the things you can do online to make money. And it's being squandered, and it's being handed over carelessly by the United States to the United Nations. It's a shameful move, and we didn't consent to it, so why is it happening exactly? Ridiculous. This is Binary here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, hotnewstalkradio.com. Listen to us live here on Hot News Talk Radio on Noogaradio.com and on Facebook as well.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing the new show. I want guys to push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Explore the world, or maybe just the Caribbean, from the sunny deck of a cruise ship. You're cooled by iced drinks and dozing off amid quiet chit-chat by the pool. This Tuesday, come by to make it happen. Get free Expedia Cruise Ship Center dining credits in the veranda levels or higher, on top of other extras. Expedia Cruise Ships Centers, Tuesday only. Expedia at Overlook at Helen Place at 2260 Gun Barrel. That's it, 6 p.m. Win a door prize, extra perks, Tuesday only.
Listen up, y'all. Ben Phillips, Home Rate Mortgage, 805-9100. I'm in the business of saving people money. And if you want to save money, pick that cell phone up right now, 805-9100. I received a call that I won't forget. The guy is a Chattanooga police officer who served our great country in the Air Force. A true American hero. Our hero was renting, which cost too much for a space too small. We helped him achieve the American dream. And the best part is this. He purchased a $180,000 home with zero down. His payment is $200 less than what his rent was. And now he has a safe place with more space to raise his family. It's easy, and you can do it too. It just takes 10 minutes and one phone call. 805-9100.
Whole body vibration really works for weight loss, pain relief, circulation, and building bone density. Go to Lily's at Single TV and talk to Dottie at the Gun Barrel Road Store and Robert at the 153 Hickson location. 10 minutes equals 1 hour walking. It really works.
Cash, and more cash. Rick Davis has the cash. Rick Davis will give you top dollar for your gold, silver, diamonds, and coins. You'll get international prices. It's like he's giving away money. Top dollar for your gold, silver, diamonds, and coins. There he goes. More cash out the door from Rick. Rick Davis will give you top dollar for your gold, silver, diamonds, and coins. Cash, and more cash. Rick Davis has the cash and diamonds. Rick Davis will give you top dollar for your gold, silver, diamonds, and coins. 5301 Raider Road. You know where it is. Cash, and more cash.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. It's not something you see every day or hope to ever see again. A naked man speeding down the highway in a silver 2005 Mitsubishi Lancer on Highway 111. That's what witnesses saw when they called police. The man's name is Mr. Nixon, and he was seen driving the wrong way down the highway. He eventually hit a 2008 Dodge Avenger belonging to Ms. Carson, who called EMS, and Mr. Nixon was restrained and eventually arrested. He eventually tried to kiss one of the EMS workers and told a deputy that he loved her. While he was being restrained, he told deputies that he was given acid by God, who wanted him to be free. He's not free anymore. He's in jail on multiple charges. A pedestrian was hit and killed on Highway 153 near Highway 58. Northbound traffic was stopped for quite a long time while they were trying to investigate the scene. The person did die on scene. 2 people were shot on East Brainerd Road after a struggle over a gun. Investigators are trying to find out what the argument started over. It was in the 7900 block of East Brainerd near the Bojangles. It was going on in the Tennessee Valley. It's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk
1240.
Looking good out there through the afternoon. Lots of sunshine. A little warmer afternoon highs near 82. Tonight, mostly clear. Not as cool. Lows into the upper 50s for Tuesday as well as the midweek. A little warmer weather returns. Highs near 85. Still looking dry for the next several days. Wings over North Georgia presents the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds in Rome, October 29th and 30th. Travis Tritt headlines the concert stage, followed by a spectacular fireworks show. For tickets, wingsovernorthgeorgia.com. And I'm Sorgene 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You know that the opposition, if you're siding with Trump, is desperate when they have a bunch of celebrities come in to tell you that Trump is an evil, racist person. Seems a little bit desperate. And now they've got a bunch of people who, I respect quite a bit. A lot of the people who work on Star Trek. I love Star Trek, and I think Star Trek's a great series. But they've got a lot of people who worked on Star Trek coming out with this new ad talking about how, we got to stop Trump from becoming president. Trek Against Trump is what it's called. Urges voters to choose Hillary Clinton. Now, that's not desperation. I don't know what is. Come on. I'm not even saying that because I want you to vote for Trump or anything like that. I think you should make an informed decision and vote for whoever the heck you want to vote for. That's up to you, man. I can't tell you what to do. Do what you want. But Art Stenica has a story here saying over 100 prominent members of the Star Trek cast and crew have written an open letter against Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. A letter was posted to Facebook on Thursday, and it just goes on about how Donald Trump is bad. Basically, his election would take this country backwards, he says. Perhaps disastrously, we need to elect a president who would move the country forward into the kind of future we all dream of, where personal differences are understood and accepted, where science overrules superstition, where people work together instead of against each other. So basically, we're all hippie atheists, I guess. The letter goes on to say that voting Green or Libertarian because the two major candidates are equally flawed is illogical and inaccurate. So basically, you got to vote Democrat, and if you vote for the other people, your vote's worthless, I guess. Why can't you just vote for who you want to vote for? I mean, the third parties are there for a reason. They do exist for a reason. You can vote for a third party if you want to. The whole logic about, you voted for a third party, you may as well vote for the Democrats. Not really. Or for the Republicans in this case. I mean, not really. Because your vote did not go towards either Donald Trump or toward Hillary Clinton. Your vote went toward, Jill Stein or Gary Johnson. Amazing, right? That's how the third party system works. It's a two-party system, unfortunately, but it would always end up being a two-party system because statistics basically demand it. If it was open market on parties which could run, it still seems unlikely that we would have more than two major parties because in marketing, it always ends up with two major choices. Think about soda as an example. There's a bunch of different choices of soda, right? Soft drink, Coke, right? But think about it. Pepsi and Coke. The two ones you always see, Pepsi and Coke. It's always Pepsi and Coke. Pepsi and Coke. Nobody talks about Dr. Pepper. Now, Dr. Pepper's my favorite. But no one talks about the Dr. Pepper Snapple Group. No one talks about that because it's the Dr. Pepper Snapple Group. Everyone knows Pepsi and Coke, Pepsi and Coke, Pepsi and Coke. But if there was a two-party system, and even if you abolish the two-party system, think about that. Just get rid of the two-party system entirely. There would still be two parties, most likely, because statistics demand it, because branding, because mentality demands two choices. Mentality, the American and human mentality, demands two choices. Pepsi and Coke, Pepsi and Coke. McDonald's or Wendy's, McDonald's or Burger King, right? It's always the two choices. It's always the two choices. Little Debbie or not Little Debbie. I can't think of the alternative. Little Debbie. We live in the South, man. It's all Little Debbie. It's always the two choices, though. Apple or Google. You're going to get an Apple phone, you're going to get an Android phone. No one talks about Microsoft Windows Phone because no one cares about Microsoft Windows Phone. It's a choice. It's an option, but no one cares about it. That's just how it is. That's how humanity works. They say vote for a future of enlightenment and inclusion, a future that will someday lead us to the stars. The letter concludes. Why that's newsworthy exactly, I don't know, but of course Will Wheaton signed the letter because he's a little panty waist. No one freaking likes Will Wheaton anyway. I don't know why anyone cares what he says. Will Wheaton is, I'm going to go off on a tangent now. Will Wheaton is one of, and I don't think he's like a bad person per se. I just think that he's really obnoxious. He is one of the more obnoxious people online I can think of at the moment. And it's not anything against him personally. It's just you can have whatever politics you want. I don't care. But it really is annoying when you've got this guy who used to act on Star Trek telling you how you should think about things. It's like, what credentials do you have? I used to work on Star Trek, and here's my opinion about politics. Like, who cares, man? It's the same thing with that ad they had with Robert Downey Jr. and all the other people who are talking about, oh, don't vote for Trump, he's bad. And I get it. You can vote for whoever the heck you want to, though. Why do I care if Robert Downey Jr. tells me to vote for Trump or Clinton? If Robert Downey Jr. came out and supported Trump, I wouldn't care. If Robert Downey Jr. came out in favor of Clinton, I wouldn't care. No one would care. There'd be some fake outrage, but no one would care. John Voight's a big fan of Donald Trump, but no one cares. He can think what he wants, man. People can think what they want. It's like Clint Eastwood is pretty much a Republican for the most part, but no one cares. He is who he is. It's part of his character. So why do we care what celebrities think about politics? LeBron James comes out in favor of Hillary Clinton. Okay, he can vote for who he wants. So, it's not like, this millionaire basketball star means a whole lot to me when it comes to politics. But unfortunately, the branding does work, because think about celebrity endorsements, because that is what it is. I'm Tony Stewart, and I support Wheaties, Wheat Bix or whatever. It works. It works. I'm Dale Earnhardt Jr. This is why you should buy Hanes. It works. I'm Michael Jordan. Here's why you should buy Hanes t-shirts. It works. So the branding, the marketing, it does work. It just seems forced. It seems kind of desperate at this point. And, millions of dollars that people have donated to these campaigns are being dumped into these ads, shilling for Hillary. It seems like a waste of money at this point. Clinton should prove herself with facts. Clinton should prove herself with etiquette. Clinton should prove herself with policy, not with, Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson telling me who I should vote for. That just makes me less likely to vote for her. If someone tells me to do something, I'm less likely to do it. And that's how most people are, especially millennials. We are contrarians. If you tell us to do something, that makes us 1,000 times less likely to do it. If it's the cool thing to do, we probably won't do it because everyone else is doing it. That's a waste of time. Anyway, talking about technology, Google is set to make a bunch of new, interesting announcements coming up here soon. In fact, Google is set to possibly replace Android and their Chrome OS, merge them together into one entity called Andromeda, which is a very clever name for it, because it sounds like Android, but it's not. Andromeda is possibly the successor to Android and to Chrome OS. So if you're on, say, an Android phone, or you're on a Chrome tablet, you could soon be using Andromeda instead. Now, what does that mean for the average consumer? Well, it means they'll be using a new operating system, basically. It's not particularly impressive, but it is still interesting that they're doing this whole rebranding shift suddenly, sort of out of nowhere, because there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of reason for it. It's just they're doing it because why not? A little bit of a perspective here. Inquirer.net has a story. Google to announce new Andromeda OS in just a few hours here, actually, today, October the 3rd. And Google's also set to make a bunch of more announcements on the 5th. But with the release of the Pixel phones less than a day away now, the rumor mill has shifted to a juicier topic, this one revolving around an apparently new operating system Google will run on a new laptop called Andromeda, and will be merging aspects of Chrome OS into Android, reports Business Insider. Now, I'm assuming it's still going to be Linux-based, meaning that better, basically, than Windows. But additional reports from Android Police and 9to5 Google corroborate the new Andromeda may be coming out together with a new Huawei Nexus tablet. Andromeda, on the other hand, is said to be codenamed Bison, formerly Pixel 3. This laptop is said to have a 12-inch form factor, under 10 millimeters thick, and equipped with a touchscreen display. Police places Bison among the convertible devices like the Lenovo Yoga laptop series because they can fold around and the keyboard goes behind the screen and stuff. Apart from hardware speculations, there have been no word yet as to what exactly would set Andromeda apart from regular old Android OS. So very interesting stuff here. And it's all very interesting because this is a major marketing shift they go away from Android towards Andromeda. Say if they want to make this the new all-inclusive operating system, where this is something that Windows has been trying to do for a long time, by the way. Microsoft's been trying to do this with Windows for forever. The idea was you have an operating system on your phone that is the same as the operating system on your computer. And it would have worked. It's just that people didn't really buy into it. Apple does sort of the same thing, where everything just sort of works with Apple. You know, like if you have a Apple iPhone and you're using an iMac and you have a MacBook Plus, or sorry, a MacBook Pro, everything's probably just going to work for you. That's the obnoxious fact of it. Everything's probably just going to work for you. They have that ecosystem that just works if you use nothing but expensive Apple products. Microsoft has been trying to do the same thing for a little bit with the Windows Phone and with Windows 10, but Google could actually pull it off because Google is the newcomer, and Google can learn from the mistakes of both Microsoft and Apple, because Apple's had plenty of mistakes, trust me. It's all very open for Google to walk in and basically claim the prize as the first operating system that works on both phones and tablets and laptops and desktops and works well and has good compatibility. It could very easily happen with Google. So very interesting. Microsoft is now merging both Bing and Cortana and its research into AI. Now, artificial intelligence is the subject of a lot of fear. Lots of people are afraid of AI, artificial intelligence, because an AI is something that could potentially be smarter than people, and it could potentially kill all people at some point. And, you know, could that happen? Yeah, I guess. Will it happen? No, probably not. And if it does, oh well, all humanity's dead. That's not really a big deal. Microsoft is merging, though, Bing, Cortana, and research to make 5,000 strong AI division. Microsoft, it says, wants to democratize artificial intelligence and bring AI to systems that everyone uses. So to reflect that desire, the company is shaking up its organization. The company is creating a new group, the AI and Research Group, by combining the existing Microsoft Research Group with the Bing and Cortana product groups, along with the teams working on ambient computing, a world in which everything around us is computerized and connected and responsive to our presence, robotics, and the information platform group, which covers both Bing advertising and natural user interfaces. Now, this means, of course, that Google is going to have to try to compete. Now, there's a whole big war going on here that most people don't know about. I mean, a whole big technological war here that your average consumer, your average news watcher doesn't know about. And that is this. Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, and Google are all trying to achieve basically the same goal before the other one does. Now, what I'm talking about is actually intelligent artificial intelligence. And Google seems to be on top here. But Microsoft has the funding and the know-how to be on top itself. So it's up in the air who's going to win here. And, of course, Google and Facebook could potentially come out on top as well. Now, the war here is over the first actually Turing test approved artificial intelligence. The Turing test is a test in which a bunch of different questions are asked, and you have a long conversation with an AI, basically. And if you can't tell that it's an AI, it's passed the Turing test. And there have been a few which have. That's kind of scary, actually. IBM's Watson, notably, was a big winner on Jeopardy. And Watson was said to be, Watson's going to take over the world. And that didn't turn out to be true because Watson just wasn't smart enough. But computing has changed a lot since then. And server farms have become a lot more affordable. Google, you might remember, is building that massive server farm in Alabama. It's not a coincidence. There's a reason. They're working on super advanced artificial intelligence, which could potentially run everything. A super advanced artificial intelligence, super intelligent artificial intelligence, could potentially make your business the most efficient business on the planet. If you dedicate an AI to running your business, you now have the most efficient and possibly the most profitable business in existence. That could potentially happen. But you can also market that to governments, too. If you have a benevolent so-called AI, which is also very good at code breaking or understanding human emotion or understanding how people operate or studying a person's everyday habits, and you use that AI for, say, intelligence purposes like the NSA would use it for, Now you can market that for huge amounts of money. There's a lot to be said for that. Have you noticed how good Google sounds right now? I mean, Google Voice. Have you ever heard it? Listen to this. I'm going to bring up my phone, and my phone's a little bit old, so it might take a little bit to do. But let me turn up my volume here as well, so you can fully appreciate what you're about to hear here. Let me turn my volume, and here we go. So, with the Google's new Google Now, the voice has changed pretty significantly to the point where you almost can't tell it's a person. Listen, or it's not a person. Listen to this. Okay, Google. What is the longest word?
According to Wikipedia, the longest word in any of the major English language dictionaries is pneumino-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis, a word that refers to a lung disease contracted from the inhalation of very fine silica particles. Specifically from a volcano, medically, it is the same as silicosis.
You hear that? That sounds really dang good. And Amazon's doing the same thing with Alexa, and it's amazingly good sounding. This AI technology is really taking off, and it could potentially take over the world too. But it also could run, say, your space missions, or it could run, say, it could run your kitchen efficiently, it could run your restaurant efficiently. You could hire out Google's AI to run your business as a business consultant. How crazy would that be? But it's not that far away. It's definitely possible. It's frightening, but it's definitely possible. Now, here's another question that's come up before the Supreme Court. Can you trademark an offensive name or not? The U.S. Supreme Court is set to decide whether or not you can trademark an offensive name or not. Now, I would, being very libertarian-minded, say, yeah, you can. You can trademark whatever the heck you want. But I would also say we need to go back to the old trademark system where it only lasts a few years. The current trademark system is completely broken, and everyone pretty much knows it. Trademarking and copywriting are both entirely and inherently broken now, but that's a story for another day. They're only supposed to last for, I believe, 2 years. But again, story for another day. The Supreme Court on Thursday said that it would decide once and for all whether federal intellectual property regulators can refuse to issue trademarks with disparaging or inappropriate names. So bands like, say, Butthole Surfers probably wouldn't be able to have a trademark on the name Butthole Surfers if the Supreme Court had its way. At the center of this issue is a section of trademark law which actually forbids the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office from approving a trademark if it consists of or comprises immoral, deceptive, or scandalous matter, no matter which may disparage or falsely suggest a connection with persons living or dead, institutions, beliefs, or national symbols, or bring them into contempt or disrepute. Wow. The case before the justice, which they will hear sometime in the upcoming term, beginning in October, concerns the Portland-based Asian American rock band called the Slants. I might guess why they're called that. Previous decisions have come down on both sides regarding trademarking of offensive names. The most notable denial is the name of the NFL Washington franchise, the Redskins. But lesser-known denials include Stop the Islamization of America, the Christian prostitute, Amish homo, Mormon whiskey, I guess they don't drink, Ride Hard, I can't say that one. Can't say that one either. And Democrats shouldn't breed. In contrast, the potentially offensive names, other potentially offensive names have been trademarked. Some of these examples include, I can't say that one. Can't say that one. Okay. Stinky Gringo, can't say that one. Midget Man, and Off-White Trash. I mean, I just think it's funny, like I've got pretty thick skin, and maybe that's why I think it's funny. But in the Slants case, the justices agreed to review the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, cited the First Amendment, and sided with the Slants and its founder Simon Xiao Tam in December. The appeals court essentially struck down the entire section of trademark law about disparaging trademarks when ruling the Constitution even protects hurtful speech, because it does. The Constitution does protect hateful speech. We keep getting in this argument about hate speech and free speech, and is this hate speech or is it not hate speech, and what's this and what's that. Listen, you can say whatever you want. Now, there are consequences sometimes for certain things that you say. You might get punched in the head if you say it, but you can say whatever you want. In terms of, if I go to a predominantly black church and shout the N-word, I can do that. but I'm also probably going to have the tar beaten out of me, so to speak. Maybe that's bad phrasing. I'm going to have the, I'm going to get my stuff kicked in, is what I'm saying. It's not going to be too pretty if I were to say that and have that happen. Now, I can say that because it's my First Amendment right to do so, but I also will probably get beaten up, and the court would probably side with whoever assaulted me because they'd say it was fighting words, and that's a real thing. It could have been fighting words, and it would have been at that point. It's words that are meant to harm someone, right? Those are fighting words. Now, that would work, right, as a legal argument. So I would be held liable for that. But still, I can technically do it. There's a lot of things that you can technically do. You can shout fire in a movie theater, but you also will probably get arrested afterwards. The question isn't, did you shout fire in a movie theater? You say fire all day, but did you perhaps, note that someone got trampled as a result of you saying fire in that crowded movie theater? Now you're liable for that person having been trampled. It's all very, very complicated. But in terms of copywriting things, I'm not sure why there's any restriction on what you can copyright in terms of word combinations. Even vulgar words. It just seems dumb to restrict. You can't use the F word in this copyright. Come on. Well, why not? Seriously, it seems just a little bit silly that in this day and age we care about that kind of thing. Maybe that's the other problem too, is why do we care about this kind of thing? But it's all a big mess too. The copyright system is completely broken. I want to talk about that for half a second here. The copyright system is broken for a lot of reasons, but the big one is, the biggest one is, honestly, it lasts too long. Disney's been a big petitioner for this. Disney has petitioned ages and ages and ages now to make it so that Steamboat Willie, the first Mickey Mouse cartoon, stays out of public domain. They really want Steamboat Willie to stay out of public domain, because if Steamboat Willie becomes in public domain, then that image of Mickey Mouse can be used in anything. It's now public domain. So Disney's been fighting for ages to keep that out of the public domain. So Disney's been petitioning Congress for years to make sure copyrights get extended for years and years and years to come. And it keeps happening. And it's going to keep happening. Copyrights were only supposed to last for what was called an exclusivity period. It was like 2 years, I think. Patents were the same way. Only supposed to last about 2 years. And after that 2-year period, it was out in the open. That's why we have a bunch of different companies making light bulbs now, because light bulbs are public domain. You make any light bulb you want nowadays. Think about it. What if Edison sat on the patent for the light bulb and said, no one else shall make a light bulb ever? Then Edison's company would be the only company that could ever make light bulbs, and he could set the price wherever he wants. Well, the founding fathers took it upon themselves to understand that this was not a very good idea. So the founding fathers back in the day said, you have an exclusivity period to recoup your losses, but after 2 years, it's public domain. It's now completely free market. So any company can make that product all day long and compete with your prices. So they can sell it at wholesale if they want to. They can sell it at a loss to put you out of business if they want to. They can do whatever they want. Unfortunately, we've lost that sense of free market in the modern world, but we do sort of still have it in the local economy. It does exist in tiny snippets here and there. This is Binary here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, hotnewstalkradio.com. We're live on Facebook, and we're live on YouTube. We're live everywhere. Noogaradio.com and the TuneIn Radio app. Tune in. Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, hotnewstalkradio.com. Colin Cowherd up next.